Brian, it is great to see you today.
Great to see you. Great to see you.
I know we're chairman down, as some of you may know, and we've talked about it a few times on the show, that Grant is reworking the Goodwood HQ, has a beautiful space, 20-foot ceilings, but with that comes quite a bit of acoustic treatment if you're an audio person to deal with the reflection of a super high ceiling. So Grant today is in the midst of building acoustic panels with his brother-in-law to get this thing all outfitted so that it can sound as good as Grant looks. And, you know, if you haven't seen him before, if you've only been listening, he's a good-looking guy, taken man, ladies or gentlemen. But nevertheless, we look forward to seeing him on the next show. But for now, we have an amazing episode for you that I think is very appropriate given the direction that many of us go on our pedal boards, which is how to future-proof your pedal board and your guitar gear investments. Now, what I mean by future-proof is many of us are easily taken and wrapped up by whatever the trends are of the moment. And it forces us to have to continually evolve our pedal board because we're always looking for the great next best thing. And what we're here to tell you today and give you some strategies for as well is based around the idea of choosing effects that are sort of tried and true stuff. And not only are we going to talk about that, we're going to talk about things like longevity of pedals and making sure that we're investing in products that we know are going to last. Also thinking about things like resale, if there are pedals that we may want to move, and how we might buy those to facilitate sort of the least amount of loss as a consequence to trying things out. I think also the idea of making your rig somewhat timeless in the types of effects that you might choose. And then we're going to get into some of the sort of nuts and bolts or the mechanical aspects of actually putting the rig together. And something that Brian is very well known for is doing the courtesy loop, which is this technique or strategy of leaving extra length of cable and then wrapping it back onto itself before going into any sort of connection in order to facilitate different pedals in that same place. So maybe it's building a specific cable so that the pedal that goes into that input or that output has enough slack on it where it could have top jacks, it could have side jacks, and equally with where the DC placement is. These are all sorts of things that we're going to talk about and best practices therein. So Brian, just initial thoughts on future proofing. Do you have any things that you want to just get out there for the good people as we start to get into this?
Yeah, for sure. I think like future proofing, you could even go a little like a step further into thinking further down the line for like power. So like you could do something like getting a larger power supply. So like you know, getting we love the chalk system, like all of us do, and it's such a great system because if you're pairing like a DC7 and the 4 or the 8, not only do you have a huge amount of outputs. I mean, that's, you know, between 15 or so outputs between the 7 and the 8. On top of, you could add more through the EIJ output, but it allows you to have that many variable voltages. So no matter what pedals you're switching out, as long as you've labeled those power jacks, you can easily just go and use a little toothpick and you can switch, you know, if it's a 18 volt or if it's a 15 volt or 12 or 9 or whatever. So I would say for like initial, like, you know, we're going to talk through about space and like how to plan for certain pedals sizes to go and don't always account for just like this tiny little micro pedal. But like, I think when it comes to power, sometimes it's okay to have extra power. I see more people that are like, you know, I have 7 pedals, so I need 7 power outlets. I'm like, well, just get this where you have additional, because we are guitarists, you know, we absorb a new pedal or we find a cool new pedal. So I definitely think accounting for a little bit larger power, larger as in power. It doesn't have to be larger in size, but just accounting for a power supply that can in the future adapt to your changes.
Yeah. I think that was a really smart point that maybe we should start on with power, because that wasn't something that came to mind when we initially sort of discussed this topic as a
Yeah.
possible thing to talk about. And I think that is really brilliant. I built a pedal board recently for somebody, with which I can't get into details about yet, but will become clear in the coming months. And one of the aspects of it was we were working within the Walrus Canvas ecosystem for power supply, and obviously Walrus has a lot of different options as far as power supplies are concerned, that go up to 22 outputs.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we were dealing with a much smaller board than that. But the challenge, or the question that we were asking was, okay, is this going to be sufficient for 8, or is this going to be sufficient for 15? Because I think it jumps up from 8 to 15. Is that right? Or is there some? Okay.
Yeah, 8 to 15.
And it was kind of like, well, I think we should definitely go with 15 here, because not only do we have the ability to expand this thing if we're not using up the entirety of the footprint of the pedal board, but equally, this just gives us, options to do whatever it is that we want. Now, you could argue, okay, if I had a 8, I could expand it to another 5 and kind of get things, do it in smaller increments, because those all have the ability to expand or contract via the EIAJ plug. That's like a 24 volt, output that feeds, an input or a through to keep expanding.
Yeah.
But we opted for the larger supply, and even though there were, I don't know, 4 and ended up being 4 unused, that just means that there are other options in the future. Or if you've used up your variable voltage outputs and you need to create 18 volts by doing a voltage doubler cable, whatever it is, you have the ability to do that. So I think that those are really, really cool and smart things to do. And because the profile of today's power supplies are so much smaller than they were even 10 years ago, it's not something that we have to sort of make separate accommodations for in the spacing of the pedal boards. And these Walrus ones and shocks equally, they're 1 inch high. Yeah. And they're so small in the Walrus case that the brick is a larger profile and height than the actual supply is.
Yeah.
To kind of give you a sense of like how small this is.
Yeah.
So it's pretty impressive. And I think as far as power supplies, you're absolutely right. And I think choosing an ecosystem that has that ability, whether it's the Strymon, the smaller Strymon Zuma, what's that, the R300, is that the one?
Yeah,
that's like a smaller profile, and then you can expand that to the High 5 or the other.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that those are all super smart choices that just, again, speak to the future proofing aspect. But the thing that I think is probably the biggest culprit for like oversized pedal boards, or like pedal boards that are just constantly in flux, is because of the chaser element that is just, plagued so many of us guitar players, where we are constantly seeing new products come out. We want to try new products. And I'm not somebody, I manufacture guitar pedals. So obviously when I come out with a new pedal, I want you to try it. And so I'm sort of speaking against my interest here to say this, but the truth is that most of the pedals that are tried and true are going to be popular, or at least out there and in demand 5 years later.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this as somebody that I've manufactured a lot of pedals. I've made, I think, over 100,000 pedals at this point, or close to 100,000 pedals if I haven't. I have to do the mathing. I did a couple years ago and I was like pretty close. So I'm imagining that I'm over that now.
Nice.
So there's over 100,000 pedals in combination of stuff we've made over time. And I had some real flops. I'll say that with with full transparency. And the market, is pretty self-correcting. If you have something that people really like, and I don't think that this is always true, because I do think that there are some incredible pedals, by my estimation, that don't really see the light of day.
Yeah.
And there's other factors that are involved with this that is not part of this episode, but marketing and all these other things factor into it. So if you don't get lucky and have like a prominent artist use the product, or you have a company like JHS kind of profile you or your brand or your product, it sometimes can be difficult to kind of cut through the noise. I think now more than ever, because there's just so many people that are competing for that same space and for those eyes.
Yeah.
But that aside, looking at my own pedals, like we've had some that have just been like total flops. Like, you know, you do that initial launch, things are looking good, and it always kind of looks good at the beginning because you've got your dealers that are buying in and your loyal customers that are buying in. But then it's like when that next cycle of re-ups come around and you're like, oh, nobody actually really likes this thing. You can see that for those that, you know, maybe bought into it at the ground floor because they wanted to be a part of it, maybe if I was coaching them on pragmatism, maybe they would want to wait until like a few waves went before that they would kind of be like, okay, is this worth trying? You know, and now I'm going to try. Now I see that's been around for a while. So we have pedals that fall into the category of just kind of being flops. They never really went anywhere. The ones I can think of are T-Drive is one. It was based on a train wreck express type sound. And then another one was the Nile compressor, which was like a studio compressor with like a Neve preamp. And it had two different channels, and they both did abominably. You know, like initial sales great, and then after 6 weeks, like was a struggle to get the rest of them through.
Yeah.
But then we have other pedals that have been around for like a really long time and have still sold well year over year in V1 to V2. You know, boosts have been like that. Steel strings, ultraphonics, those have all been like that. They've always sold well. They've been consistent. And it didn't seem to matter. Generate, you know, some of those, the boost I think has been out, you know, over almost 12 years, or I think over 12
years. That's such a good one too.
So there's stuff like that just, you know, kind of separates itself organically. Like there wasn't any special thing that we did to the marketing of the boost that we didn't do for every other thing. But I think it's like that with a lot of pedals. It's just like the good stuff, the cream kind of rises to the top, and there's of course exceptions to that. But I think that if we were, and I threaten this all the time, if we had like a channel called like 5-year review, you know, and it doesn't review anything until after 5 years, you're going to get like a lot less clutter in terms of the pedals that you have on the pedal board and disruptions on the pedal board, because you know, most of the stuff that's coming out, just like you would expect with any sort of, I don't know, product that's hitting the marketplace, maybe 5 to 10% makes it. The rest of it doesn't. And if we're constantly in the throes of like getting what's new, unless it's just like, this is just your hobby and you don't care if you're taking a bath on these products, or if they, you know, were not as well thought out as the manufacturer thought they were. And I say that about myself, not meaning it like mechanically, like it was a piece of trash. It's just like, it's the one thing that's very difficult to do as a manufacturer that some people are better at doing than others. Like I think Josh at JHS is very good at this. I think Chase Bliss is really good at this. I think that they're excellent at identifying their customer base. And then not only are they excellent at doing that, but they hear things like their customers do. And so when they design a product, they have a pretty good idea of what the pulse is of the people that buy their pedals. And so when they make something, they not only know how to sell it to them, but they know that they're most likely going to like it because their ears are sort of tuned to the community of pedal buyers that they've developed. And not every guitar pedal builder is good at that, or some of them know they're not good at that, and then they sort of recruit team members to help fill in those gaps so that they're able to better position products. And then some of them are actually pretty good at it, but they still bring in other people just to kind of get like fresh ideas. Like I think Robert Keeley, I would consider that. Like he's created some great products independent of having, you know, all these different people on his team. Now he's got this really developed team of younger folks that are kind of helping push Keeley into a new direction. And I think that that's one thing that's been really cool to see Robert Keeley over the years, is that he's he's really reinvented himself a lot of times. Brand wise, and has had like a lot of success, I think, in the marketplace as a consequence of like betting on the right horse in his sort of rebranding. Because he went from having to completely rely on Boss reselling him products and basically having a whole line of pedals that were Boss modified to being cut off by Boss and figuring out how to make his payroll by coming out with his own products. And that's like a really scary proposition if a vendor that you've relied on is like, we can't supply you anymore, and we know your whole entire product line is sort of based around you having our stuff. And then you having to be like, oh crap, now we got to make just Keeley stuff.
Right.
But anyway, I've been talking a long time, Brian.
You're good.
What are your thoughts on the on sort of pedals and obsolescence and people that are just gravitating toward the shiny light?
I think there is definitely that level of like the next new thing, or you're not happy with your setup because you've had it for so long. I had one player to this day, I think he's had his rig 9 years. He hasn't changed a single pedal. I don't know how. He's just like, he's got a lot of the really good staples. Everything is still set up the same. The board still works. I set it up, 8 or 9 years ago. And he just was like, he said it really funny. He goes, I play a lot, but I'm too busy to care. Kind of. That's the way he put it. Because he's working, he has a job. He's like, I just don't have enough time to just be like, oh, I'm going to redo my pedal board, or I'm going to sell these pedals to get new pedals because I'm happy with the tones I have. I mean, the funny thing is like I built like this fractal Axe FX3 rig with the RGM controller in a rack, and I love it. It sounds amazing. But then there's like the part of me that's like, you know what? It would be fun to do this. Is it because I have this space and I can do that? Yeah, it's easy to kind of just throw something together. But like I remember even sitting on the living room floor when I was a teenager at my parents' house, sitting on the carpeted floor and like pulling up my board and staying up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and rearranging it or adding a new pedal just because I enjoyed it. I think there is a level of like people just enjoy kind of the chase. It's like, I had the chase of wanting that black penguin for all these years, and I finally got the black penguin, and then I got it, and I was like, oh, it's not as...
To your credit, at least it's not like the penguin just released, like last week, and you were following some trend. It was like, there's been quite a few vetted uses of that in music that we all know and love. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, no, I would say the chase aspect of something new, going off for something new, I think it's a lot of times is people just want to be involved in the hype. They want to be one of those people that can post that they got that new gear day and they got that pedal, and everyone else is like, "What? How did you get that? Oh my gosh! Oh yeah, I can't." I get that. I can understand it, but like especially now, because like I think when you find the pedals that you like, it's hard to want to incorporate something new because then you start going into this. Start going into, well, do I have enough power? What space is that going to replace? Do I have enough space on the board to replace that pedal? So like that's where I think this whole conversation kind of comes into play too. Is like, oh, I just got this new, it's like buying the automaton from Chase Bliss. That sucker ain't going to fit in a Morning Glory spot. It's not going to fit in a Tone X1 spot. Like it's not small. So it's definitely like, it's sometimes those, I think those new pedal trends is kind of just like, it's like the after Thanksgiving sale, Black Friday sale. It's like that. It's that crazy frenzy of, well, back in the day, people would rush in.
That's exactly what it is. That's totally the right word, Brian. It is a frenzy.
It's a frenzy. Everyone wants that thrill and that rush of getting that new thing, and they're so excited. And I mean, I remember people.
But where's the automaton now?
That's
how many rigs are you still?
That's the thing. Yeah, like that.
From an engineering standpoint, quite a feat, right?
Yeah.
And I know that there were some mitigating factors that they had used some parts they couldn't export anymore to Europe because of some of the CE regulations and stuff like that. But that was standing, they could still have made it in the US if it was killing it. And I think it was like one of those things, it was super expensive to make. It had, it was, again, an engineering feat. Nobody can take that away from them.
No.
But like practically, we didn't see people selling their clones for it. We didn't see people who were like true fuzz face disciples saying like, forget my, 68 fuzz face.
Yeah.
I'm now an automaton user or a king of tone or fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
No.
But it doesn't happen. It's not just that. It doesn't happen with any of that stuff because again, it's like the cream continues to rise to the top and like the best stuff, the vetted stuff that really works ultimately, with few exceptions, as I said, people are going to just, those things are going to become known. It's just like, I don't know, it's like the Timmy and stuff like that.
Well,
I think the light speed is getting into that conversation too.
The light speed.
ODR1, tube screamers,
the TR2,
blues breakers,
like the TR2, the TR2 Boss Tremolo. I just had a guy yesterday. He came back from Nashville from doing like, hired a bunch of session players to help record his album, and he's like, man, you'd be surprised to see what this man had on his board. And I was like, oh, well, what do you have? And he's like, man, he had an M9, he had a TR2, he had a light speed, and he's like, and he had an Archer or something, and he's like, and he's played the Klon, and like he went down the thing, and he's like, man, I'm starting to see all these pedals that are like just like they have been around forever. And it's like, well, a lot of times it's not about does it have all of the cool nuts and bolts and does all these knickknacks and stuff, but it's about the longevity of the pedal. And sometimes it's who's played it and inspired someone. So like seeing like these people using the blues driver for all these years, using the light speed, using all of this stuff. It's just one of those things that I think a lot of people see, like these pedals that you were just mentioning, Mason. Like, people see other people stick to them. Like they're the meat and potatoes, of the person's tone, and there's a reason why. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's some more of this to get into that I think we can unpack. But before we do, Brian, I want to throw to you for some of our sponsors, and including one of our new sponsors that we should continue to highlight, at least for a little bit here, while they're still technically new, our friends over at TrueFire. But Brian, I'll turn that over to you and you can take it away.
Absolutely. Well, the first of our sponsors are going to be the guys over at the Guitar Sanctuary, where a lot of these pedals we are talking about, a lot of these power supplies, pedal boards, all these different gear, all this different gear we are talking about, they do have a lot of this stuff in stock, even neural DSP stuff. I mean, it's really cool. They have electric guitars, acoustic, ukuleles, amps, used gear. They have everything there. So go check them out at guitarsanctuary.com. You won't be disappointed when you go call those guys, text them, whatever you got to do. They love to help you out. Next to me, guys, over at Neural DSP, who the Guitar Sanctuary also carries. Neural DSP just did a Nano Cortex update. They just did a Quad Cortex update. They just released Mantra, which I love the Mantra plugin. I was doing the voice editing for a podcast, not a podcast, but like a church sermon. And it was taking sometimes a couple hours to do all of this like EQ compression to like getting everything done properly, and even like cutting out, pops and coughs and that kind of stuff. And this Mantra software took my editing down from like a couple hours to like 20 seconds. And I was able to literally just export the audio and airdrop it to someone who uploads the audio and stuff. And they're like, oh, how'd you do that so quick? And I was like, man, it's this plugin. So go use the code Chairmen, CHAIRMEN, for 30% off all of their plugins. This doesn't include the Mantra plugin right now. I don't know if it will include the mantra plugin because I know a lot of the.
I suspect.
Yeah.
I suspect any of them. Yeah, I think
so.
the 90 days or older should make sense.
So
I think.
if it's after 90 days, then you can use this for this plugin. Otherwise, if you're interested in Mantra, just go use their trial. I think they have a 14-day trial
like a
period.
14-day.
Yeah. So, and that's what originally I did. And I was like, man, I love this thing. So I went and I got it, and it's awesome. You won't be disappointed. I know that the new Cortex update is allowing some new plugins that can be loaded on, which is amazing. A lot of people have been asking for that. So go check out Neural DSP at neuraldsp.com. Use that code. It lets them know that the chairman sent you, and get some stuff. 70% away from free, as we say. Next are going to be our friends over at BTPA, or known as Bestronics. They are simply the best. I'm just going to say it because that's what they are. They help us in any situation or bind that we need when we need connectors or we need power connectors. Even like this, like I have these little connectors that I use for power, like these little straight connectors.
Ooh.
These 2.1s, they're so clean. They are very clean. They're very rigid too, or sturdy, I guess would be the word. Sturdy. But Brad can help you get power cabling, power connectors, audio cabling, audio connectors. They have just a plethora of stuff, and they are the best. So go use the code DACHAIRS, DACHARS, for 10% off your order. Save some money today. And last but not least is our new sponsor, the guys over at TrueFire. And we know that you've spent maybe hours dialing your tone, making sure your pedalboard setup is just right, listening to these podcasts. You know, you just want things to set you up for success. But you can go a little bit further with your playing by hooking up with TrueFire on all of their courses. They have over 2 million guitars using this to learn, practice, and level up, with over 85,000 video lessons in tools like slow-mo, looping, synced tabs, and backing tracks. And I will say, the Guitar Sanctuary has advertised this for years while I worked there with Andy Timmons, Josh Smith, Mark Lettieri. All these guys have used this stuff. So with your TrueFire access, you get unlimited to every single course in their library. And they have thousands of lessons across different genres, skill levels. Best guitar educators on the planet are available at any time. I mean, if you think about it, at any time of the day, if you're sitting at home bored or you're not working or something and you want to learn from this other guitarist, I mean, just go log on and find that new lesson that you want to learn or whatever you want to do with that different genre. I think it's a really cool tool because it helps. Like if you're in one genre, but you're learning on the other genres, it just allows you to just really go and just kind of enhance your playability because you're not tied down to that one type of thing. So that's what I would say. You can start a 14-day free trial, all access, with no limits, no strings attached, if you go to truefire.com/chairman. I will throw it back to you, Mason.
I think that the TrueFire thing is so cool. Like I've used them a lot in the past. I think I mentioned one of the last episodes that we were doing some videos kind of like showcasing Larry Carlton tone. And I had remembered that in the Larry Carlton video lessons that I had bought from TrueFire, that there were tracks in there. And it's like they give you tracks that Larry has developed so that you can play along with him and sort of, you know, try to incorporate some of the lessons and stuff like that. So we ended up using like some of these backing tracks. There's like so many different things that you could use it for other than just the lessons. And so I remember just feeling like I took advantage of that. And equally with Robin Ford, it's like, I don't know, pretty much like every Guitar Hero that I have now has lesson content available on TrueFire. You can get Eric Johnson, Steve Vai, all these guys. It's crazy. It's crazy the type of people that they were able to get on there. But in any case, check out our sponsors. When you work with them, you buy stuff from them. That is in turn supporting what we're doing here on the show. So if you appreciate the show, that's one way that you can help support us, is by getting something from one of our sponsors. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
I think the next part of this that I wanted to talk about, Brian, was talking about resale, because I do think it's an element that maybe is a little underappreciated when considering buying something.
Yeah.
So one of the things is when you buy new, if you are part of the community of people that just want to buy the new thing, those are the people that are most likely to take a bath on resale, because as soon as you buy something, just like a car, and you drive it off the lot, it loses, 20 or 30% of its value just right there. And so I'm wondering if you are a person that is more inclined to do this sort of experimentation from, again, if it's beyond just the chase and there is some financial incentive tied to it, that maybe buying secondhand may be more practical because you've allowed the hit to have already been taken by somebody else. And if you do lose any money on it, it will be substantially less. Like, obviously, you're going to have, if you buy on Reverb or some of these other sites, you're going to have some amount of tax and probably shipping that's involved. So that's probably not something that you'll likely recoup. Potentially recoup, but maybe not. But you're probably not going to lose much in terms of the value of the physical product, and it's not going to be on the order of 20 to 30%. If you do it on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or someplace where you can have an in-person meet and that can be done in cash, then maybe that's even a greater incentive. The downside is, of course, of buying used is in some cases you may not have the same warranty claims as a secondhand user instead of somebody who purchased it originally. You may not have a receipt of purchase. These sorts of things can factor into the repair process. If something goes wrong, you don't have quite the safety net of a Sweetwater, let's say, behind you to say, we've got you, this thing's not working, we're going to take it up with the manufacturer, here's a brand new replacement unit. So there are those risks associated with going secondhand. But I think it is a consideration that a lot of people don't think about when they're kind of jumping on the hype train. You're basically saying, if this is not everything that it was advertised to me to be, I'm now likely, if I don't return it within the return period, which, by the way, most of the major major retailers know that is not. There are, of course, serial returners, and I think they have their faces up at Guitar Centers in the break room. But one of my friends, you know who you are, is the worst Guitar Center returner.
Oh, no.
Not that he's the guy that just quick aside, and you know who you are. You listen to this. His name starts with a B. And his thing is, he doesn't just like buy stuff and use it on a gig and return. He doesn't do that. Some people I know have done that with Guitar Center. It's a little frowned upon. I haven't done that. But not saying I'm better than you, but I haven't done that. I haven't gone to that level yet. But my friend, whose name starts with a B, he buys, like, he loves Tom Anderson Cobras. And he buys like every Tom Anderson like Cobra that comes on to the used Guitar Center website. And he buys it and he compares it against like his gold standard ones, and then returns it to the one in, I guess it would be either Phoenix or Scottsdale. I don't know which one it is in Arizona. Which Guitar Center is, but I had another friend who makes red plate amps, Keith, and great amps, by the way, and great guy and great builder. And he's like, man, it's crazy. I go to the Guitar Center here and they have like this insane amount. They always have these insane Tom Andersons, and I was like, he's like, I'm wondering how they just end up with all these Tom Andersons all the time.
Oh my gosh.
And it's because it's Boris. Shit, I said his name. It was Boris. Buys all these Tom Andersons, plays and is like, yeah, they're not as good as the ones that I have. And he just takes them. So there's like 10 Tom Anderson Cobras, or like drop top, or like kind of like variations of a Cobra that are all sitting in this Guitar Center. And so if you work at Guitar Center in Phoenix or Scottsdale and you know about this, comment here, because I think it's pretty funny that. And I think he also went through like a matchless phase where he was like buying like DC30s, HC30s, Spitfire, Chieftain, and then they had like a bunch of matchlesses, go in there because I guess like technically that's not a misuse of like like they want people to try it, right? They use stuff, you have to kind of see how it is. And like, I don't think he's trying it frivolously. I think it's just like he's such a seeker and knows he loves this particular model of Tom Anderson that he just wants to see if he can find one that's better. And I think he has, because I think that there's some that end up getting swapped out, but like it's not a high ratio. It's like for every 10 he buys, there's like one. He's like, oh this is a better drop top. I'm going to move this one on. I'm going to keep this one from Guitar Center. But anyway, just funny thing about the use thing. But I do think it's like a super practical way to go about trying stuff. And I know that you operate a lot on Marketplace and stuff like that. Can you sort of maybe walk people through like your process? I actually feel you're pretty good at this, Brian. Like you are not paying sticker price and buying like the brand new stuff. Like kind of what are your strategies and techniques for finding good deals on used gear?
Yeah, I think
you've got a Silver Sky, right? You just got like a killer deal on a Silver Sky.
Yeah. Which I don't know if I'm going to keep or not. I haven't decided because I've played humbuckers my whole life, and it's one of those things.
What color is the Silver Sky that you have? We'll do a quick little plug here.
I call it silver. It's not silver. I mean, it's right here. It's that one. It's a 2018.
So is that the first year?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that color.
Yeah, so it's really nice.
Well, how can you say you only played humbuckers? I mean, aren't those you've got some P90s behind you, right?
Yeah, well,
you've got
some shop.
And then what's on the Gretsch? Are those Filtertrons?
Those are Filtertrons. Yeah.
So I mean, those are kind of like a single, aren't they?
Yeah, I got the Jazzmaster from a friend that passed away, and they were there. He passed away, but still had like over $100,000.
You're saying because of the guitar?
No. This is the cheapest of his guitars.
It was P90. It was the P90s that got him.
Oh no, I love P90s. No, I think I'll either upgrade. I think I'll upgrade those to some like Lambertones or something. But I have this one and everything. And a lot of times, like I think years ago, I made the deal with my wife. Like my wife and I, we met when we were 12. So like we've literally, and I'm 32 now. So like we've been together.
Been married since you were 12?
I mean, if it was her way, we would have been married since we were 12. We got married at 19. So we've still been together for a long time. And I
think you're the only person I know who's married younger than I was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think you're the only person I know who's married younger than me.
Yeah, it was one of those things. We both kind of just grew up really quick. We graduated early, and we were just like, let's get married, and then let's move 1,800 miles or 2,000 miles away from where we grew up and start life. So I think we made the deal long ago. It was one of those things like, not that I couldn't just buy gear with the income. I think we've always just been such a like smart with our money, especially moving across the country where you don't end up not having any money because you're 19 and you don't realize all the bills that are involved in being an adult. But I was basically like, if I get something that's new in gear, I will either sell what I already have to get it, or I'll trade what I have to get it. So I've always kind of been into the trading and that kind of stuff. Or, I sell this one pedal for 500, but then I can turn around and buy two pedals between the two for 500. So I've always kind of been in that, or trading in guitar, like people trading in gear. It does not happen often. So please don't, please don't start bombarding me. I've had a couple of you like, hey, I would like to trade this towards my build. So I've enticed options before because I've been interested in it. So I get the option to mess with it and stuff. And this one is really cool. I've played my Duesenberg for so long that I think I've just been so set on it that I haven't wanted to move away from it. So we'll see. We'll see if I keep it. But like my whole thing, I have sold and rebought the Strymon Timeline 20 times probably. I have done the Nova Delay 20 or 30 times. I have sold them and bought them. But it's because like some of these pedals, I just come back around. The DD5 or DD7, I've bought that a ton of times. The RV5, like JHS Morning Glory. I have an analog board somewhere around here that I just put together that had a New Neighbor stereo wet, a RV5, a Nova Delay, a JHS Pulp and Peel version 1, a version 1 Morning Glory, and a Boss TU2. Like I threw together a ton of just older pedals that I've loved playing with. And I think I got the New Neighbor, the RV5, the Nova, the Pulp and Peel, and the Morning Glory. I want to say I got all of it between the sellers. 3 different, it was like maybe $550 for everything, which like,
wow,
when you think of the price of what they are new and stuff, it was like, over half the price. And they're used, they're version 1s, but they sound great. And I think that's the only thing you have to be careful with when you get pre-owned stuff, Facebook Marketplace stuff, is that like you're taking on the gamble that it works, and they're like, oh yeah, it works great. But then you find out like the foot switch on the Morning Glory is bad or something, or it's crackly or it's dirty. Like those are little things you have to kind of, but yeah, no, I would say like when a new pedal comes out, it was interesting. I haven't bought anything new in probably 10 years. And then the Brothers AM from Jay Bliss came out, and I was really intrigued by it. So I bought one. I went in and I bought one. And I got home and I played it, and I was like, okay, this is cool. But then like, I just wasn't jiving with how it sounded. It wasn't what I was expecting. I think I had this is what the King of Tone sounds like. This is what a Prince of Tone sounds like. Hopefully it sounds like this, and it didn't. So I was able to turn around. I sold it for what I got it. I am not one of those people that goes and sells it for 3 times the price because it's a brand new pedal. I know that there are people that do that. But it was just when it was like, yeah, it's not for me. And I sold it to a friend here locally, and he absolutely loves it. And I was like, that's great. So I think a lot of times, a lot of these pedals just come down to like, you can jump in on the trend. If you don't like it, you don't like it. You can return it. Yeah, I don't know. I've always stuck to that kind of thing. Like, it's not bad to have something brand new, but I end up buying used just because we like going thrifting. Like we love going to Goodwill in the middle of a week, my wife and I, when our kids were in school, and thrifting, vintage clothes. I bought some boots on my birthday 2 years ago for $5, and they're like $200 pair of boots, and I literally wear them every day, and they're the most comfortable pairs of shoes. So sometimes buying used, you get a really good deal. Sometimes you just don't realize it until you got it. And a lot of these guys were like sell off pedals and stuff really cheap or whatever, really try to get it gone really quick because they want that. It's like when the Line 6 Helix came out, the new one, the Stadium. Everyone was selling their older Helixes for like almost half the cost. And people are like, well, we know that you're getting the Stadium or whatever, because they were so desperate to get cash so quick that they sold them so cheap. I mean, it's the same thing. Big Sky MX came out. Everyone was selling their Big Skies for like $250. And I'm like, that's like cheaper than buying an El Cap. Great. I'm going to start buying all these, used Big Skies and stuff like that. So yeah, I just think it just comes down to people just like that excitement, be in the crowd of people that got it. And I'm just like, I'm tired. I got 2 grown kids and one on the way, and I don't have time. I have time to sit down for an hour before whatever set I'm playing the day before and practice and run through. But I'm not all up into this whole like the next great new thing. Unless it's the new iPhone, then then I always get a new phone. That's my thing.
Well, yeah. I think that this is a good place to break for today. I think we went through some different things from the power supplies, and actually, you know what? I realized there was one thing that we didn't fully sort out. I teased it briefly in the intro. We'll finish with this.
Let's do it.
We talked about the build style
Yeah.
of future proofing, which I talked about your strategy of the courtesy loop. And I don't think you're the only guy that's ever done this. But I think it's a really common thing that we should be seeing a lot more of in pedal boards that are kind of in the stylistic formats that you might see from you or from Grant or stuff that I've done, where when the pedal board is a fairly fixed size and things are put down with dual lock, it's not, quite as maybe modular as a pedal train. The way that you create modularity but still maintain the format and the neatness is by doing the courtesy loop. And in essence, it's like the cable loops back onto itself in order to create the extra length needed to facilitate different jack orientations and stuff like that. Can you kind of walk us through a little bit of that strategy, Brian? Maybe give us some visuals of how that might look to somebody who's watching us as opposed to listening.
Yeah. So if you're watching and if you're listening, I will do my best to explain. So I actually just did this board on a Vertex board. I just finished it yesterday.
Lovely.
So this is your 26 by 14. So it would be your, is that called a travel?
This is a tour compact, I think.
Compact, yeah, tour compact. Oh yeah, the travel's even smaller. So like if you, I don't know if I zoom, are you gonna be able to see it? Is that zooming in?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, sick. Okay, so I actually did a bit more of a loop back. So like, look at this GE7 EQ pedal, how I looped it back, but then I, looped it forward. This allows not only there not to be any strain on the plugs, but it also allows, if you have to pop up that pedal, you're not breaking the connection, you're not stretching the cable, you're not having to deal with it. And it account for if you get something top jack related. It's super easy to route it upwards. So, and another thing I was going to mention, future proofing is by labeling your connections. So like here I did output.
Yeah.
And then I did input, I did send and returns, labeling your stuff as much as you can, even labeling your power, like that kind of stuff really comes in handy when you're switching out pedals, because if it doesn't look like this, maybe it's a little bit tighter, you might plug in the wrong jacks and stuff, but this loop, you can see I did it for everything. Like I did on this one. These ones are send and returns, so they're not going to move, but they do have a loop in them. And labeling the pedals, what loop they're in, that kind of stuff. But yeah, the loop back, looping it back through and then kind of bringing it back up. Not only does it make it a little more symmetrical and clean, but it also just allows for there to be plenty of space if you swap it out for something top jack related, or they are side jacks, but you need, it's a different orientation. There's, the KTR, they're side jacks, but they're both on the same side. So having the space to be able to do that is honestly going to set you up massively, especially down the road. If you want to swap something out, it's literally take your car key, pop it up between the Velcro, pop off the pedal, unplug the cable, put the new pedal on there, and you're playing. And I do the same thing with power too. Like,
you use a car key to separate dual lock?
Yeah, I've used my car key. Well, now I have a car fob for my wife's car, so it doesn't work that well. But for my 2007 a Toyota, which 240,000 miles, we're still rolling.
You're not worried about bending the key?
No, because the way that I do it, you don't bend it. You don't do this. You just it's like starting a car. You just turning it to pop it up. I'm kid you not. I've done this 100 times. Some would say a million times, but
a million times.
But that I would say that's the big thing is like you do that as well as you do loop back for the power. So you go past the pedal, loop it back, solder it or whatever, so that you aren't putting any strain on the power. Because as soon as that power connector breaks, you're screwed. So that's what I would say.
Right. I've seen some guys do it with butter knives, they'll send like an email that says like, where do I get that plastic crowbar that you have? I used a butter knife. And then you see him like take like a picture of the butter knife and it looks like it's got Peyronie's disease.
Oh no.
And it's got quite a
oh my gosh. I've used knives before. I've used screwdrivers. I've used flatheads. The keys end up just being the one thing that I have on my hip that at any moment I could just use. I don't fully recommend it if it's a small key. It's good, but it could bend. But
I think that those upholstery crowbars, man, are just
they're great.
so good. Yeah, they're because it's a crowbar, but it's plastic.
Yeah,
and I think you can get them at like most auto parts stores, like wherever you would buy oil filters and stuff like that. But you can also, of course, get them on Amazon. I think the only problem with Amazon is like they give you like a bunch of them for like every possible place on the car where you might be removing panels or stuff like that. And so there's like all these different shapes. But realistically, for the pedals, you kind of, I just use the one that looks like a crowbar, but it's, maybe only 6 or 8 inches or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that one's kind of the easiest one to use. But nevertheless, Brian, I think that that's a good place for us to land the plane for today, or the Miata, as it were. Yeah. And Grant, we wish you all the best in your endeavors as you make your way. And actually, Grant, I should say, Grant shared this with us, his acoustic paneling, and I'll share it on screen here. It's coming along nicely. You can see that he's got them stacked up, beautifully covered and folded. So, we'll look forward to seeing that in his studio space and all of its glory here, hopefully by the next episode. But until next time, we will see you all later. And again, if you enjoyed what you're seeing, we highly recommend that you write us a review wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever it is that you listen. Reviews are very helpful in helping other people that are like-minded find us. Also, if you want to join our Facebook group, we are nearing 1,000 members of our free Facebook group that is all dedicated to pedalboard discussion, gear discussion. And we have some really, really great folks there that know how to answer a lot of the questions that you might have that have been steeped and indoctrinated in our pedalboard building strategies and advice. So I highly recommend you check out Chairmen of the Boards Facebook group if you are on Facebook and want to learn more and talk with other like-minded people. Thank you, Brian, for being here.
Awesome.
And Grant, we'll see you next time. And everybody, thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.